Time I have visited Newcastle within 2 months. The first time was when we both went to a considerably hotter and drier Newcastle on the east coast of Australia. I am very happy indeed to be asked to continue the tradition to which you have referred, particularly as the new Redruth Bridge is a most striking example of a structure which combines the essential traditions of bridge design.
And now, the moment the crowds have been waiting for. The princess is drawn like a magnet to the children, and the warmth of their welcome leaves no one in any doubt that she is our most popular royal. The visit has already taken much longer than planned, and clearly the Prince and Princess have been most impressed by the work of St. Gemma's. But sadly, the royal couple must take their leave. The Princess returning to London, and the Prince continuing to York for a further engagement.
Down.
European culture and civilization. The achievements of nature in the beauty of its setting.
Charles was shown how to trigger a Ghetto Blaster radio arm. The next location was a mock-up of the villain's villa in Tenerife. Perfect. Some of the loss went on breakages. The special bottles used in fight scenes were handed round. They're made of sugar glass and, as Prince Charles discovered, are perfectly harmless.
Tastes rather good.
So the princess was invited to choose her target. The couple were offered a complete set of the bottles to take home with them. Anne Lucas, News at 10, Pinewood Studios.
They liked it better still when the first walkabout began. The princess looked remarkably fresh after the 10-hour flight from London, but jet lag was taking its toll, and both later confessed to feeling disoriented, not quite sure what they were at. They were to have little chance to recover from this initial tiredness. Afterwards, in wind and rain, with the princess swathed in a cloak, they watched the fireworks. The best way to see it all, and the least harmful on the feet, is by boat. So that's how they started, cruising past the pavilions of 54 nations. For car buffs, the royal vehicle is a 1939 McLaughlin Buick. The Prime Minister. By her standards, the princess's fashion had been a bit quiet so far, dull, the Canadian papers called it. Then she turned up at a rock concert in a black dinner jacket and baggy trousers. Conservative Vancouverites goggled, and the prince had a bit of a jolt too. She got the dinner jacket idea when she borrowed one of her husband's for a London outing. Now she'd improved on the theme. Very fetching. But the heavy, almost relentless schedule of events was beginning to wear her down, particularly the constant touring of expo pavilions, 5 hours of it at a time. On this hot Vancouver day, she went to the Saudi Arabian pavilion. Then the British pavilion, voted unanimously by the critics as expo's dullest. Then the American pavilion, embarrassingly extolling the achievements of NASA. A banquet. By then she'd had an hour's rest with her feet up. There was no question she would not attend. She was composed, but still very pale. Japanese could at least provide her with a taste of the tour to come. She was wearing a red outfit which seemed to heighten her palette, but she was cheerier and determined to carry on with the job. This was at her most wistful, seeming rather vulnerable. The prince was enjoying himself. Both looked tired. The princess discovered, as everyone does, that they're hard to chew, harder to swallow. Then she put her arms in the sleeves properly to get the full effect. It was too long, but even so, she attempted an experimental shuffle. All of which produced a happier laugh than we'd seen for days. It was the princess who walked into dinner with the emperor, trying to match his measured tread. And it was the princess who, with gestures, finally started the talk going. In return, the emperor, though of course he outranks a princess, deferred to her and waited until she was seated. They went straight to the airport in their evening clothes. The tour across the Pacific was almost over. For sheer hard work on both their parts, it will take some beating, and the fainting episode has left a nasty memory. But there are memories of happiness, of wonder, and fun too. Time now only for a wifely warning: watch your head.
Président, nous sommes là. Voilà, Madame Chirac, s'il vous plaît. Voilà. Monsieur Arnaud. Madame Pompidou. Merci beaucoup.
When the three royal princes have paid their compliments to the cenotaph,
I'll drop it and then see what happens.
This is Lizzie and Natasha. They're both staying. Come just to make sure you know what the whole thing is about. We're going to the back and we'll be back in the
But not only is it a distinguished platform, it's a very distinguished audience. And there are many people it's very important.
Yes, exactly. Behind you. And Derek. Hello, Derek.
Now, she's come to terms with all that now. Her life is on a subdued, even keel. She's taking various medications to control the eating disorder, the bulimia.
Confidently stepping out on her own now, Diana, Royal Ambassador at Large, is welcomed in Japan by the Emperor.
Diana is still as important as ever to the royal family. There's something about her, some sort of magic, that nobody else has got, and that's both a problem and a pleasure.
It's good to have you here. And I think Royal Highness. All of the Cuban Highness. But you want to come through.
They all surrendered to her as if she'd been laying it under siege in a medieval way.
Married to Charles and with no divorce imminent, Diana could still become queen. But by exposing her
editor, she wore that dress that showed her muscly back, and she had that wet look hairdo that was very much a fashion look of the moment. It was a look that shrieked 1995, and it always will.
I think the great thing is that she can go to America and she can be treated like the goddess that she really thinks herself to be in lots of ways. Time in America.
Diana's clothes and fashion sense have moved on since the power dressing days a few years ago, when she was constantly in the royal spotlight.
Diana was a fashion icon in the 1980s, exactly with that Dynasty Dallas look that everybody aspired to. It was her moment. We saw her, we fashion editors, really change like a chameleon into Dynasty Di, a sort of sub-Joan Collins look. At the same time, she's also dressing now, in the 90s, to be a working woman. She does a lot of work. She's a person in her...
Every morning she's up at 7, she goes off to the gym, she works out. Flights. She will go on a normal train. And also it's a nice counterpoint to the way that the rest of the royal family...
The royal wives of Windsor married their Prince Charmings to discover that it brought loneliness and despair. But it did have some compensations.
I was not tiara. But you notice that Diana wears much more the Spencer family of tiara. In fact, she hardly wears tiaras now, since she has been separated from the royal family and from Prince Charles. But the Spencer tiara seemed more in her style, and that she's worn that quite a lot.
To take a picture of her with the new man in her life.
And failed.
I think what people forget is that Diana has voluntarily given up being Queen of England. So what worries politicians at the moment is the fact that if anything were to happen to the Queen tomorrow, you've got the ugly prospect of the King divorcing the Queen before his coronation, sooner rather than later.
An enduring responsibility to the monarchy. I'm afraid I'm one of those people who believes that she should actually pack her bags and make a new start, her mentally and spiritually.